Welcome to the podcast with your favorite cash flow guys, Mike and Blaine. Giving you the best advice while having a beer. When you're running a business, there are problems every day. Let Mike and Blaine help you out and guide your way. Cheers to the good times with Mike and Blaine for business, beer, and BS.
Hey, it's episode 157. I'm Mike Byland. That is Blaine Birch, and you are listening to Mike and Blaine, Business, Beer, and BS. If you have not went to our website, go check it out. What's up, Blaine?
If you watched last week's episode, it was all because it was Mike's birthday. Because we had whiskey at the last week.
Super messy. That was super messy.
Yeah, not this week. That was once a year. That's once a year.
Yeah, once a year. So we're back to beer. We're not doing whiskey and beer this time, right? So we're back to beer, so that's good. But it's been an interesting week. I'm telling you what. There for a while, I think it was COVID. I'm just going to call it on COVID. People went away from, or companies, banks, SBDC, they went away from live training events. And it's coming back, right? Because I think webinars are awesome. I think what we do is awesome, but there's no comparison to the energy you get off of a live broadcast or a live event, right? I don't want to be off screen like this, like it was. I think that was last week, where I was like,
yeah, shift her over. Yeah, half your head.
but that's what we're talking about. It's like on people crave interaction, right? People crave connection. And so what's funny is that the semester started over at the university, and I'm teaching this strategy and innovation course, and part of it has to do with just starting, just like, what am I going to do? So that's the inspiration for today's episode on Win or Whiff, because I got some good insight doing some research for this class, and I thought I'd share it.
Nice. So I'm going to dive right into my beer, because I usually try and connect the beer to the topic. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But when you said that, is the idea a win or a whiff? And I thought, sometimes things might not sound like a good idea, but in the end, they turn out to be a good idea. For instance, and I know you've actually had this beer on one of our episodes, but I had to bring it out because at one point, someone was telling a friend that they were going to have a brewery, and they're going to call the brewery Belching Beaver, and they were going to put peanut butter and milk in a stout. And I bet you they said, that's a stupid idea. But here they are. And the fact that I'm having it today, and I don't know, a couple of years ago, a couple of seasons ago, you had it in Texas, tells me they've been pretty successful. So sometimes good ideas are just different ideas too.
That's a good memory that you remember that, because I think that was season 1.
That might be season 1. I do remember a lot of the beers on the episode, to be honest. It was kind of interesting. So,
So, speaking of beers, we got a new beer sponsor on Tuesday night.
Really? Nice.
All right. So I went to a San Antonio Missions game, and Courtney was going to go with me, and then she got called away at last minute. Right. So she got called away last minute for a job. It's like the beginning of, she works with colleges. It's the beginning of colleges. So she busy. So I asked a couple of neighbors. So I had neighbor Thomas go, he lives right across the street. And I had neighbor Chris go. Right. You know how I always name them neighbor something, right? But neighbor Chris, he even put that in the bias beer, right? Neighbor Chris, while we were at the game, because he went with me, he says, I'm going to buy you guys a beer. And put it in. So neighbor Chris, decided that we were worth, the money to go ahead and sponsor. So neighbor Chris has been added. My beer sponsor this episode is neighbor Pat. It's like neighbor Pat. We're starting to sound like a cult neighborhood. If I call everybody neighbor this, it's like, wait till I get us all uniforms.
Yeah, they all matching uniforms.
Or t-shirts. But Pat did not brew this time. Pat gave me, because he's my Punkin, right? So no. So pass my little pumpkin, but I'm gonna have the pumpkin beer because he's getting ready for fall, I guess. But I love the pumpkin ales, in the fall. Quick story about Pat. Pat gets everybody together. Hey, let's play bags. Let's play bags this week. Dude, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was the break because we haven't played in maybe a month. I don't know if it was the break or not. I was absolutely on fire. I don't know if I forgot all my bad habits. It was just ringer after ringer in the hole, in the hole, in the hole. I got 5 in a row right in the hole. And it's just like I was just on fire. Everything was hitting, getting points. Pat cannot win in this neighborhood. I'm telling you, he just cannot win in this neighborhood because I finally gave my position up to neighbor Thomas. I said, Thomas, hey, you jump in here and see if it's closer. Yeah. He didn't just get beat by me. He also got beat by neighbor Thomas that night. I'm like going, he's the guy that loves bags so much. He just is. I figured he was practicing. He didn't practice.
And I do want to point out, he was the one that delivered beer down the block to you. And then you just start, let's throw him under the bus. Here we go. Here. Thanks for the beer, by the way. Well, okay. Well, I'm going to thank you, neighbor Pat. Thank you, neighbor Chris. I wanted to write it on my little list here. So I can go like, neighbor Chris, that was a beer sponsor this week. Thanks, Chris. Really appreciate it. I'm going to jump in. We have 3 others. I'm going to jump in on a couple more here. Larry Weinstein, CPA out of Texas, the Cash Flow Cowboy. Thank you again, Larry. Really appreciate it. If you guys are looking for a CPA, go see Larry. And also the other Mike Mylan, Baltimore Mike. Thanks again. We just always enjoy talking with you and drinking your beer. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah. And we can't forget Rachel Barnett of Gentle Frog. If you need to know QuickBooks, if you have, you're looking at it, you're getting frustrated, don't know what you're doing, you have to contact Rachel over at Gentle Frog. She will get you lined up, ready to go, and making money in no time.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Rachel. I really appreciate it. And yeah, let's kick it off here. So
now, are you kicking it off? I thought you were going to kick it off. You act like you were ready to go, man. Boom. All right. So let me tell you how this came about.
That's what I was asking. How did this come about?
Because it's always like that. First of all, if you've never listened to this show, we do zero prep, as you can tell. And the topic is usually developed somewhere within the half hour before the show. Most of the time, it's within minutes before we go live. Larry was like going, how do you do that? Larry's had his own podcast, and he preps. I mean, first of all, Larry had guests. If you have guests, you got to kind of know something about the guest, right? Yeah. You can't just go in super cold like we do. But I wanted it to be relevant. I wanted it to be off the cuff. I wanted it to feel like we were sitting on the deck with you having a beer. We're just talking about business.
Well, and that's what makes it interesting because it's topical. It's topical to you. Like usually it's like you that come up with the idea, but because it's topical and you have a passion for it, because it's top of mind, that's what makes it a good topic. And yeah, and I you were talking about like you had some really interesting insights from this class here. So I want you to share with me what did you find out?
All right, so the topic again is about evaluating a market, right? Not necessarily the business idea, but it's taking your idea that you might have gotten at 3:00 in the morning, sitting on the deck, drinking beer with your buddy. Yep. And I figured today we would actually evaluate pitch pickup on this matrix. I've got a whole matrix and score chart now because of building out this class.
Yep.
So anyway, what I want to do was talk about, if you don't have a market, you don't have a business, yep. Right? That's the thing. So even if you have an idea, you have to be able to determine, will somebody pull out their credit card? Mm-hmm. Right? Will they do that? Because have you ever heard the saying, like, you should eat your own dog food?
Yes.
You ever heard that?
Absolutely. Yeah. We talked about it on the show at one time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's where it kind of came up. I taught that just today about eating your own dog food and saying, hey, if you're dry run and you do cash flow forecasting, you should do your cash flow forecasting in dry run.
Yes, which I do.
Yeah, which you do.
Every week. Yep.
And then if you remember during that episode, I talked about that because you had another cool saying about the dog and the dog food, or it's not dog food until a dog eats it.
Dog eats it. It was, yeah, something like that. It was close. It's not, it isn't, it's not, it's something, it's not dog food until a dog eats it, along those lines. But there was a cooler way to say it. I can't remember what it was anymore, but yeah, I do remember talking about it.
Yeah. And to me, I think when you said it, and I forget how you said it, but when you said it, I'm like going, oh my God, you really don't have a product until somebody pays you for it. And then it's the dog food.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's exactly it. And, you know, like because we see it all the time. Like you and I are both talking with other entrepreneurs all the time. We also get to talk with people considering being an entrepreneur or have a business idea. And oftentimes they come from two sort of ways. One is somebody identifies a market and they dive in, whether they are really passionate about what it is or not. They just see an opportunity and they dive in. The other one is when people say, well, I really love this. I have a passion for this, so I'm going to do it as a business. I think oftentimes those fail more often because if they haven't stopped to think, is there a market? Just because I like it doesn't mean anyone else is going to pay me for something, right? Those are more challenging, I think, sometimes than the ones that say, it's a different set of challenges. I'm not passionate about this. I don't really care, but I see an opportunity and that there's a market there. Because like you said, if there's no market, you're done. Like there's no business, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, I read this thing that was like the iron law of business. And what it was saying is if there's no market, then nobody cares about how smart your idea is or how good your idea is. If nobody's going to buy it, it'll never fly. So that got me thinking when I'm building this class. And I tell you, I think building the class has really elevated me as a coach. Meaning I'm thinking about things differently. And I'm a student now of business and people, because that's really what business is. It's about people. And one of the first things I found out is what drives people to do anything, what drives people to action, right? And can I do a shameless plug?
Yeah, go nuts.
Only because I had a book come out last week on my birthday. Don't tell me what to do. But because it wasn't my birthday, I published it on my birthday. I did it on purpose, so I'd remember. But the whole point of the book was we want people to be committed to taking action, not compliant, told to do something and do it because they have to, right? It's a commitment. And that's the way I look at sales. That's the way I look at people that buy your stuff is they're taking an action because they're driven by something, right? Mm-hmm. There's something there. And I'm like going, what is it that drives people? Has anybody ever broke that down? And the answer is yes. People have broken it down from a business standpoint, and it's about consumer behavior. And there were 5 things that drive needs, right? They're like human needs from a consumption standpoint. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, oh my God, if you know that, then you know if your product or service, this is the first thing. You should also know if I don't fit into one or more of these categories, people aren't going to buy because these are kind of the 5. All right. So let me tell you the 5 and we'll kind of talk through them.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So the first one is just to acquire things. Buy a shirt because I need a shirt, right? So to acquire things. So these might seem a little generic, but they're really like deep when we start to think about them. The second one is that I want to have a bond with somebody else. So I make a purchase to bond with other people. The third one is I want to learn something, right? The fourth one is that I am trying to defend either myself or others or property or things. There's a defense need that happens in human behavior. The last one was feeling. I'm trying to find a feeling, or I'm trying to feel something. So I had the class today go through an exercise saying, hey, well, let's talk through that. If those are the 5 things, what businesses fit into those? Right. So you want to take those one by one, just kind of go, hey, like what's a business that just is acquire, right? Just to acquire stuff. And the thing when I was looking at acquiring stuff, there was like a category of you've seen those matrix or like it's 4 charts. It's like what's that graph called where value is high and number of customers that buy is lower, price is high. You've seen these matrices.
Yeah.
Well, what I was asking was, what is a product, something that you have to acquire, and you have to acquire it a lot, but it provides a high value at a low price? Can you think of anything? Like you need it. It has ultimate value in your life. You buy it without knowing. You don't question it, and it doesn't cost much. You just do it.
Coffee beans.
Coffee beans, right? So that's one of those things. You just do it, and you buy it, and it's a repeat purchase. The price is relatively low compared to other things in your life. So think about it, right? That's one business model. So that you can fit into is I could, if I do that, then I need a lot of customers. I can't just have 2 or 3 customers. Mm-hmm. The example we came up with in class was toilet paper, right? It's just one of those things you just kind of just buy on repeat. On the other side is it still provides a lot of value, but this company needs very few customers and they charge a lot. Right. So can you, what would a company be to you that does that? Doesn't need a lot of customers and they charge a premium price.
Like the luxury brands, like a luxury watch, for instance.
Yeah. The watches and all that. The example we came up with in class was Maserati because they only build so many per year. Right.
Yeah.
But you pay a lot for them, right? So it's scarcity. I think you've mentioned that in the past about scarcity and I forget the other part of scarcity that increases the value in the price. Sorry if you don't know.
You got me there. I know it's like about 5 minutes down the show. I'll just yell it out. Suddenly,
well, it was about the watches. You know, you were talking about that's what makes them valuable is how scarce they are and how rare some of these watches are. All right, so the next one was about bonding with people, and we went instantly to social media. And I'm like, okay, well, let's think about it. Why do you think Facebook took off? Why do you think it took off? I mean, because what did you get out of it, really? I mean, just like you already had email.
Yeah.
We had BlackBerries and text and stuff like that. We already had those things. What was it about that? And it was the deficiency. That's the word I use, like in our lives where we needed a better way to connect with other people. We were starting to get away from that. And this gave us a sense that we could still connect with other people.
Yeah.
Right. Through some type of bonding mechanism. Like I could go, oh my God, I haven't seen that person in 20 years. And here they are on Facebook. And then we connect and talk.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the kind of the exercise that we went through. Like with that, defense is pretty easy. Like you just say Smith & Wesson, home security systems. It doesn't matter. I mean, you buy it because you have a defense need. The feeling one, the one we came up with was like the movie theater. We go to the movie theater because we want to have a feeling of some type, right? If we go to a documentary, it's to learn. That's the other one. If we go to college, we have a tuition, so we want to learn, right? You see how that kind of flowed through? I mean, then, we started talking about, are there multiples? And we even had Facebook at almost all of those.
Yeah.
It hit all of them. It was really weird. Kids know that.
Yeah. It feels like there's a gap in there to me. Like it feels like there's a gap in utility. Like a screwdriver. I'm not totally sure where a screwdriver fits.
Yeah, acquire. I need a screwdriver. It's in the acquisition. I'm trying to get something. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. It's just like a shirt. I need a shirt. Right. I need a shirt because I have to wear a shirt.
Okay.
Now, when I was looking at this, there was another theory called EGR, and it was like the way that I think it was EGR, ERG. Yeah, ERG. Sorry. If you go look it up, I'm sure it's a real thing. ERG, and it simplifies that into what humans typically try to do in a consumption or buying behavior, and it's it's the essentials. It's the stuff that I need. It's, we're talking toilet paper. We're talking just clothing. We're talking warmth. We're talking, I get that first. That everything else can go to hell. I do that first.
Yeah.
Then the next thing is I look for relatable things that are related to my essentials or I'm relating to other people. And then I think the third one is growth. I'm trying to, okay, I've got my social needs met. I've got my physical needs met. Now I'm trying to grow personally. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to figure out kind of where you land in your products and services.
Yeah.
This is really deep. This is not a typical, by the way, if you're listening, this is not a typical Mike and Blaine. This we're actually learning today.
There's like points and stuff that usually don't creep up. This feels very B2C to me. Because I've seen these types of like models before, matrix before, but I always usually like I'll generally look in a B2B sense, and they're kind of on the same lines, but it's easier for me sometimes to identify with like a business to business type model. These feel very business to consumer to me. I find it harder to go like to wedge a B2B into this sort of matrix. I don't know if you do. I just find that.
I didn't look at it that way because I look at buyers as buyers. Even if it's a B2B product, all you're doing there is segmenting. Meaning, am I going to sell to an individual or am I going to sell to a business, but it's still an individual? I still have to know his basic needs, what he's trying to accomplish, and why he's buying what he buys. Yeah,
but I think the thing, I guess, is that in the case that you have, it's the very first one. It's like acquire for the sake of acquiring. Feels like that's probably the most. Very few businesses are buying something on a feeling, right? Like there's probably some, but I would say there's such a large number then of the screwdriver utility things that fall into that realm. But then it kind of does it really get into the depth of what value you offer, and is there a market there for it?
You know what? I think you're right. Now that because I learned this through some research, these 5 things. I didn't come up with the 5 things. I just learned it myself. Mm-hmm. Now that you've exposed that, I think there's something about effectiveness, efficiency, solving a problem that's missing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? That does connect, right? Like going, hey, I use dry run because I'm struggling with Excel.
Yeah, because it feels like the bucket, like it you kind of have to sort of wedge it into a bucket, but it feels like so many, like the vast majority of business purchases would get into kind of a generic bucket. And I remember like there's other lists. I wish I could remember them because I haven't read them in a while, but it was, the 5 reasons someone buys, but they were more in the realm of sort of business. It's like to make money, to save money, to improve efficiency, and there's like 5 of these or whatever. And that was more just, if it drew a direct line for me where it's like, yeah, like that's why businesses or people in businesses would value what they're buying from you. And so there are, these all offer insight. This one offers insight for business as well, but I find that it feels a little bit, like I said, consumerish, I think.
Yeah, well, and I'll tell you what, I started off this whole class saying I chose this textbook because I think this guy might be a knucklehead, and I wanted to go through it. Yeah, that's the kind of college professor I am, right? I'm like going, Josh Kaufman wrote a book called The Personal MBA. I don't know if you've ever heard that before.
No.
And it's in its 10th anniversary, 1 million copies sold, right? I mean, so I'm like going, okay, I'll look at it. Right off the bat, in the introduction, he says, you don't need to go to school to learn this stuff. You can just read on your own. You can just, he's thinking that there's enough resources out there that you can figure out all these problems on your own. And me, I'm the type of guy that probably has done that. But I have an MBA. The MBA just kind of gave me, believe it or not, here's the thing about an MBA. And I think I wrote a blog article on this like 15 years ago, right after I graduated. I'm like going, this MBA is not for, even though I learned a lot more in the MBA program than the bachelor's program, it is not for enhancing your business skills. You are joining a club. All it's going to do is open a few more doors that you wouldn't have opened in your life without it. And the school you choose for an MBA matters. It matters because that's the club you joined. And people go, oh, he's a MBA at a Baylor. He's out of Harvard. He's out of, and then all of a sudden your network expands just from that one thing in common, and people give you a little bit more grace. You still got to walk through the door. You still got to know your shit and do your job, but it's just going to open the door that wasn't open to somebody else.
Yeah. Well, like I would look at post-secondary education a little bit more, I suppose, favorably than that. Now, if you ask, like, could you learn everything that you need to learn, with aside from being, well, actually, I will go into that. Like, can you learn what you need to learn for just about anything on your own? Like a lot of stuff you probably can. But what I think, especially a post-secondary education gives you is it brings in a discipline to it. And it also, it's like they've vetted the resources, because you got to spend a lot of time looking for resources and you haven't evaluated them. So you don't know if it's a good book. You don't know if it's a good this or good that. There's other resources, like, could you learn to be a brain surgeon? That might be kind of tough, but they have resources that maybe you can't get access to, but they also have kind of like facilities and equipment and everything else. So I think there's people that I think deride education. You don't need that. You don't need that. It's like, yeah, but it's a shortcut. Like, you are paying for it, but it's a shortcut. It can get you very far, very quickly, potentially. But then there's other ones that, like, if you don't have a bunch of letters behind your name, no, you aren't capable of anything. Like, that's utter bullshit. Like, that's, and I got a master's and a bachelor's. So I got a couple degrees. I learned a lot. It's not even, I think a lot of the things that you learn through that isn't necessarily the content, the details. It's the critical thinking skills and the ability to learn how to learn. So I can learn things much easier and faster than I ever could before. Right.
Yeah. So that's really interesting, because I've debated at least 5 serious times in my life about getting a doctorate, right? Continuing on to the next step.
Yeah.
And each time when it comes down to it, I'm like, oh man, I'm going to have to pay some money, right? And it's less about the money. It's about the job afterwards is not better than the job I have now.
No, and you have to be sort of cut out for that, I think, because a doctorate is being really smart in one very, very, very narrow area. I'm not wired that way. And I remember when I graduated with my master's degree, and I was at that point, I was just like, I sort of fleetingly just said to one of my, probably partly because I thought maybe he wants to hear this. And I said, well, maybe I should someday consider a PhD. And I still remember him. He looked at me and he just went, no, you like to build things. That's what he told me. He said, and I was kind of like a little chapped at the time, but then fast forward a few years, I'm like, yeah, no, I like to build shit. And I could not focus on this narrow little area of study because I like to build. I like to be part of something like that. It's just a different mindset. And so there's obviously a space for it. I know I'm not wired for it. I don't know if you are, like you might be, but
I have a whole different reason why I didn't do it. It wasn't about, the narrow focus. It was about, I'm not going to pay to take a pay cut. I just looked at what the professors made. I'm like, oh, I make more than that.
No.
I'm out. I'm out. Yep. I'm not going to go through the hassle and the expense just to get that degree that would ultimately just put me backwards.
Yeah.
That's true. Right. There's no, when I got an MBA, there was an exponential lift in my career and my ability to make money. If I get a PhD, I cannot foresee that lift.
Yeah.
Can't see it. Yeah. It doesn't make it. I'm like going, I don't think it's going to sell more books because it says doctor on it. I don't even put MBA on it. I think I write it in there in the about the author. I got an MBA, just and that's to satisfy other people, not me.
Yeah, no, it's true. I don't know if I've written, Because some professions it makes sense, and you see their name, and then like just packages of 4 letters, and it ends up being like 30 letters after. I don't know if I maybe like the first year after I got my master's degree, maybe I like wrote it on like a business card or something. I don't know if it's written anywhere anymore. I actually forgot. Like, I don't think it offers. It was useful for me to learn some things and to build some like I said, some thinking and some organization skills and things like that. No one cares. No one cares at all. So
yeah, but the difference between you and I right now is that I get hired to go in and train bankers. I get hired to go teach bankers at universities.
Yeah.
Hey, that is a required. You got to at least have a master's degree.
Yeah.
B, it's the one instant thing. Oh, maybe he doesn't know it, right? It's just it's a check the box. Okay, I can listen to this guy because he's not just made it up in his basement.
Yeah.
Like maybe he learned some other stuff. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's what businesses do. That's what we do. That's how we ended up with pitch pickup.
Exactly.
which speaking of pitch pickup, let me pitch right now. What do you think of that?
Yeah, because
it's
better segues than that. But anyway, let's just dive in.
You weren't doing it. You weren't doing it. We're past the 31-minute mark, and you weren't doing it. So I'll do it.
I'll be honest with you. I was looking around the 24-minute mark, and I'm like, "Is it too early? Is it too early?" And then I forgot.
Well, that's all right. I'm better at it, so just stick to your knitting.
Yeah, I would fiddle hopper up the segue. So.
No, that one didn't count because you just threw that in there. That's you gotta work it into. You gotta
a little
work it
slicker
in.
than that. All right.
Yeah, gotta be slicker. See, as bad as my segue was, their use of fiddle hopper didn't count. It was bad.
That was I've done better. I was mailing that one in.
Right.
Anyway, go nuts.
But while we're talking about it and things I do outside of writing books and doing a podcast, I train accountants, business owners, and bankers how to manage cash flow and put more money in your pocket. I hope you find hidden cash. I hope you optimize the cash flow conversion cycle. We talk about starting with the end in mind. Why are you going to go put in all of your time, your money? Why are you going to affect your relationships? And everything about it is, what is it that you want to do next? We actually find a way to fund that with your business by building transferable value. If you want to know more about how to do that, instead of just going to work and doing the same thing time after time after time, if you want to know how to your business or how to use your business to generate wealth, to fund whatever it is you want to do next, that's what I do. So go see me at cashflowmike.com. We've got courses, we got memberships. I have an app. Lots of ways to help you put more money in your pocket. Just contact me there at cashflowmike.com.
Beautiful. The entire time I just thought, you could use a little music accompaniment behind there. Should buy a recorder.
Yeah, something's got to be there. Recorder, yeah. Maybe I should just do that. I'm becoming pretty good at the commercials, I guess.
They're getting good. They're getting good. Yeah.
Because all right, so I got this call from the Bankers Bank of the West. I am doing their loan officer training for community bankers through like the mountain, the center, like Denver up to Canada, right? that area. Mm-hmm. And they say, hey, we want to do a post. We need it today, though. Can you do us a little video, like 30-second video? Here's what we want you to say. And I'm walking across Trinity campus. Let's pull out the phone and go, blah, 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 blah. Send it off. They go, holy shit. It was like the best one they've ever had.
Nice.
I'm like, you don't realize how much I talk all day long. I think I've never had a job where I talked, and now this is what we got. We just talk.
Yeah. It's a good way to do it, man. Good way to spend your day.
Yeah, right on. So that was only half of what I want to talk about. The other part was like the market, identifying whether or not the market is real for you. Because it's one thing to have a conversation on your deck, get all hyped up about it, says, oh my God, we're going into business together, man. We're going to do this. We're going to do pitch pickup, right? If you don't know, I'm making fun of that one because that was our reality TV show that we were going to have. We were going to drive around in a pickup and pick up entrepreneurs, and we were going to give them money for the best pitch of the entrepreneurs in the back of a pickup truck, right? And if your pitch sucked, we were just going to drop you off where the truck was. as we drove around, that would be the thing.
Yeah, they had to pitch while the truck was moving.
Yeah, they had to pitch in a moving truck.
Yeah, taking the quarters.
That's right. Like pitch in a moving truck, and then if they didn't win, wherever the truck was at in the city, we were just going to drop them off on the corner.
Yeah, so that is proof right there that not all ideas should be followed through on.
All right, but here's what I ran across: a 10-question checklist that I think every entrepreneur should look at when they first have the idea. Can I build a business out of this? And what I was able to do is we figured out a scoring system for these 10 things. You score each one of them 0 through 10, right? 10 being it's the best thing ever. There's no way to improve upon this thing. 0 meaning, it doesn't have any of those characteristics. And what Josh Kaufman, the knucklehead that doesn't believe in formal education, I don't know if he's a knucklehead or not. I'm just making fun because I'm like, I've never heard anybody just say that out loud, right? That you can just learn it off the internet, right? I mean, Chat GPT. But
all right, no, okay, we can do a show on that. The blind leading the blind, but anyway.
So he thinks that a score of 50 or higher is worth pursuing more. If you don't score at least 50, then you shouldn't. And believe it or not, when I saw the questions and listened to, kind of the way he thought the scoring should work, I agreed with it. I'm like going, yeah, this is a good tool and I want to share it with people. So what I thought we would do, I have the questions up. Mm-hmm. What I thought we would do is take an idea and just go through it together really fast. What do you think?
Yeah.
All right. So give me an idea. Maybe an idea that you thought, is this a good idea or is it not? Have you got one? I know I put you on the spot, but that's the whole show.
Belching Beaver Brewery. Okay. Yeah, actually, let's just do it.
You already know.
Let's do the idea of opening a brewery, because what'll be interesting, because I haven't seen the list. I have no idea what's on there, but I think the idea of opening a brewery now has a lot more risk than probably there's a sweet spot. It's like 10 years ago, high risk. 5 years ago, you hit the timing right, the sweet spot. Now, a lot of markets are saturated, so it's a little bit challenging. So I think we should actually do that.
All right, and I will write down what we think the score is. We'll just take the aggregate, kind of like I think it's 4, you think it's a 3. All right, so there's only 10 questions. They're really simple questions, but I've also got to tell you kind of what's good and what's bad about it,
sure.
Right? So
okay. So this is for the Biz Beer and BS Brewery. Biz Beer, BS Brewery. It's like the B4 Brewery. That's
B4
Brewery twice. Yeah. B3 Brewery. Otherwise, we've brewery twice. Yeah. Is this a good idea? What happens if we're over like 60 with this idea? Then what do we do?
Oh, think about it. Our tagline could be B3 Brewery. Come to us before you go home. or something done like that.
I like that.
That's how dumb we are, right? So, all right. So the first one is this. And we're evaluating the market. Would there be a market for our business plan? So it's Business Beer and BS is the name of it. What are we trying to do? How are we different than anybody else?
Okay, that's interesting. You know what? That's kind of interesting because it would be an interesting theme for a brewery. So let's say the challenge now is it's a little bit different because a lot of people work from home. But what if you had a brewery and it was built around the space for entrepreneurs to meet after work, the space for business people to meet after work or during the day or lunch. But it was like, in a past life, it would be kind of like in the downtown core, Manhattan or something like New York, or like just that's where you attract people and you build the brand around this market of business people and entrepreneurs as a place for them to come and network.
Okay. All right. So I kind of like that, right? So you're going off the tagline of come to us before you go home, right? B3, come to us before you go home, right?
For biz, beer, and BS. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what was funny is that my bar in St. Louis, the first one, was called Church Street, right? Before that, when I bought it, it was somebody's last name. I'm like, I'm not going to leave it as his last name. His last name was Roughgar, right? I'm like, I don't want that. So it was Roughgar's Bar and Grill. I'm like going, It was on Church Street. I'm like going, what better way to just name it as Church Street so you know where it is and it's kind of a cool name.
Cool name, yeah.
But at first, I didn't get a Sunday liquor license because it was double the price, right? You could get 6 days a week for one price, and then you could add one more day for double. Because Missouri at that time didn't want you to buy, or didn't want you to be open. They wanted people going to the bar on Sundays. Yep. Well, on Church Street, the reason why it's called Church Street is at the end of the street, it's only about 3-4 blocks long. At the end of the street is like 4 or 5 churches with schools and stuff like that down farther down. So we made T-shirts the first year that says, come to Church Street every day but Sunday.
Nice.
Yeah, blasphemous in some ways, but that's why we put Church Street on it, not come to church every day but Sunday. Yeah. We just say come to Church Street. And even pastors thought it was funny. So go to church every day Sunday. Go to the real church. All right. So that's our idea.
Yeah. And actually, I'm going to add, though, that this idea, like I kept saying, well, maybe when people were downtown, maybe this idea is more useful now than ever because people are disconnected. They aren't getting together in person. So maybe this is a way that you brand it and you have a way to bring, it's like open to anyone, but you're really focusing on people that want to talk a little bit of business as well. And so maybe that's part of the target, right?
Okay. So here they are. We're going to score them 1 to 10. And I'll just tell you. All right. So first of all, the first one is urgency, right? That's the first level that we're evaluating. And it's defined like this. How badly do people want or need this right now? And a better score, 0 to 10, a better score means that they need to make immediate purchases. For a 10, you got to make an immediate purchase. It's like, I need a Band-Aid. That's the way I think about it, right? I need something right now. I can't wait. I can't delay the purchase. So what's your score? I'll write it down on this.
Okay, well, I would say that I'm going to give it a 6 because end of the day, if you've been working just like this, working in the basement and in an hour, I'm actually heading out to meet a friend of mine who's an entrepreneur to sit down on a patio and have a beer and chat business. Yep. So do you need this? Well, when you work all day in a house on Zoom, there is a level of need there. So I'm not saying it's like it's not like a 10, like it's not even, but I would say it's a little over half that, like right now, as an entrepreneur, you kind of got to get out of the house and meet with people, I think, to can maintain your sanity, I think, at times, right?
Yeah, if you're the type of person who likes beer.
Okay, but that's the secondary thing. But the urgency to get out of the house, maybe there's something there.
Okay, but that leads right into the second criteria, which is market size. How many people are actively purchasing products like this, right? And the larger the size, the better. So the larger the pool of people, the better.
Yeah, so and that would be like, that's where you got to start doing a little homework, a little bit of research. But if I was looking at Edmonton as a city here, and I look at the 15 and some breweries that have opened and seem to be full every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there does seem to be a growing appetite for beer, and it's actually led by the breweries. I would equate it like there definitely is a cap. I totally get that. That's another area, but it reminds me a little bit of pre-Starbucks days where there wasn't much of a need for a coffee shop. And then Starbucks created a need for coffee shops. And then you had independent coffee shops show up everywhere because suddenly people had a need because they saw the value of a place to go and have a like more of a gourmet cup of coffee, right?
Hey, that wasn't their differentiator. Did you know that? What made them popular?
Starbucks?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think it's coffee.
Wasn't
Coffee probably didn't make
it. Wasn't coffee.
Yeah, no, it's not coffee, but they created the coffee culture, I suppose is what I would say, right? That led to all these businesses doing a similar thing.
They made one policy decision that no other restaurant or whoever had done up to that point, which was they didn't put really a time limit on how long you could be there. Right? Yep. Or if you could use their Wi-Fi or anything like that. They just say, hey, listen, come here, stay as long as you want. Where most restaurants, most places think that that's a bad thing because you're occupying a chair that I can turn over to new customers and generate more revenue. Yeah. They're like, we don't care. Right? So they thought people, if they didn't want to sit there, they would go somewhere else with their coffee. So it was a kind of a perfect storm of that. So anyway,
yeah, and it created a category. No, I actually don't think it is off topic because the interesting part there is what the value you bring or what you're selling might not be what you think it is.
Yeah, that's true. You know, they were selling space, a place to hang out.
Selling space, and they had a coffee kicker versus they were selling coffee and had a space kicker, right?
Yeah. What's your score on market size?
Market size, I would give it like I don't know, maybe like I'll still say like a 3 because it wouldn't have the like coffee is a little bit more ubiquitous. Beer is still like it's a little narrow. Okay,
and it's localized, but then it's also localized. We're talking about, hey, I'm not going to be selling worldwide with my beer to begin with.
Yes. Okay. But how does that, okay. So this would be a great example of if I looked at that and went, that's a 3. Do I consider changing it to biz, booze, and BS? And suddenly it's not only beer. Now it's wine, cocktails, whiskey bar. Does that open it up to maybe a 4?
Maybe. Which one do you want? I think you should go with the original idea, the one we're evaluating.
Let's go with the original idea, but I'm sort of bringing that up. You could, this is a place where you might go, okay, that's a little weak. I could actually extend that, but let's stay with the original. Let's stay with the original. Yeah.
All right. So the next one is pricing potential. What's the highest price that a typical customer would be willing to pay? The higher the price, the more attractive the market, right? We're evaluating the whole market. So I think this is a lower price thing. Beers,
lower price,
$5 to $10.
Oh, I would say over $10. Like the average customer that would go into a brewery, first of all, if it's a microbrewery, you're doing premium dollars. Like you could do a premium price on the booze. They likely, if they're networking, they're sitting there talking, they're likely to have more than one. So that actually increases the value there. And is there a possibility to extend what they pay because you have tickets for specific nights, like construction night or something, right?
Yeah, but I still think you're trading like one number both ways because you're comparing this to a market. And if we say the highest price, well, a battleship is $12 billion. That's another business. You know, they only need one customer.
This is a volume business.
But the pricing potential is still low compared to other products.
Yeah, you're right. So it's like, what is it, a 2?
Probably a 2, 1 or 2, right? All right, the next one would be the cost of acquisition, customer acquisition. How easy is it to acquire new customers? The lower the cost, the better.
How would I score that? What I like about it, now there's a couple things is if you choose to put it in an area, like for instance, like in Edmonton, we got 2 brewery districts. If you put it in the brewery district, you get traffic that sees you because they're drawn to that area. And it is like a big percentage of them will be in your market because they're already looking for a brewery. How much do you have to spend versus on advertising versus how much can you get through word of mouth, social media, people seeing you, everything else. So I would say this is not, I'm not trying to advertise to people overseas to buy like, come on my cruise ship, right? There can be a lot of word of mouth and social media locally. So I would say the cost of acquiring a customer would actually be really likely quite low if you do it right. So I'm going to give that a 2. I don't think it's that expensive.
All right,
You
so
know, you
lower,
own 2 bars, so you're probably going to tell me I'm full of shit, but I'm just
all right,
saying, right?
but in this case, lower is better. You just gave it a worse score. You gave it almost close to nothing. Lower is better, which means if you think it low cost of acquisition, it should be closer to 10.
Oh, okay. I thought it was related directly to almost like your price per. Okay, so then I would give it an 8. I would flip it. I would give it an 8.
So you're not going to spend a lot of money to acquire a customer.
To acquire a customer,
okay.
yeah.
Right.
8 or even a 9, because I think it's got a real advantage there. Probably not 9.
Okay.
Let's stick with 8.
I think what you're supposed to do is compare it to all businesses that we could evaluate this against. And am I going, okay, well, probably right, because it's just the local market. It's just a little local advertising, so probably less cost than a battleship. Right?
You get massive advantages being local. You obviously have a limited market, you have all these other things, but you have quite an advantage being local, because literally having a sign that's visible from the street can draw customers in, right? So,
all right, so we'll kind of speed this up slightly and see what happens. The cost of value delivery, how much is it going to make to create and deliver the value that we're going to offer, which is the beer and the experience? Lower cost is better, because it means that we can produce it faster, more efficiently, and we'll make more money. So lower cost to deliver the beer, right, and the experience is better.
Okay, so I'm gonna give that a 7, and the reason is because there's no kitchen, there's no chef, because right now we're assuming it's drinks. Let's just say that, if we're gonna limit it there, there's no manufacturing cost. If you're making your own beer, maybe that goes down. If you're buying beer off of the shelf, let's say it's a craft beer bar instead of a brewery, then I think it actually changes things.
Then you got labor. You got labor, and those type of things. Okay.
Yeah.
What about the uniqueness of offer? How unique is your offering compared to what's already being available? What's already out there. How unique is it to that? More unique is better.
Yeah, and I would give that a 7. I don't think it's epically unique, but I think it has some definite standouts because it's going after a particular market that I think in a lot of ways right now is probably underserved, and it's a market that it just kind of has money. Like, they're entrepreneurs that have been in business likely for a while. Not all entrepreneurs, other business people, but now as soon as you get entrepreneurs and business people in a room, service providers want to come in. And so to me, I'm like, it is a more unique idea than it's a brewery. We have beer.
All right, so what makes it unique outside the name and the tagline? I mean, what makes it unique?
Oh, I think what goes with
I thought it was average. I'm thinking maybe it's average. It's not really unique at all. I mean,
well, I think to make it, I think to make it work, it all has to be in the execution of what can you do on the business side to tap into that market compared to like restaurant. What makes a restaurant unique? This at least taps into something that's a bit more unique.
Well, now you're saying restaurant, right? Meaning, but that's not how you're supposed to use this checklist, which is unique in the world. Like, if you said, I made a Fadiddle hopper that has anti-gravity features, it's probably the most unique thing I've ever had. You see how you do that?
Yeah. Okay. No. I get you. Because I keep pulling.
But if you say if you're just a beer, if you're just a,
I keep pulling it into
you can't look at it
sector, right?
You can't look at it narrow.
Yeah. Okay.
Then other choices, right?
I would probably give it like maybe a 4 because it's. Or is it even 4? Is it like, if you're talking about how unique it is in the world, it's probably a 2. Like, it's
just another bar. If you look at it on a narrow scale, I mean, you'll always do it, right? You'll be able to talk yourself into it. But if you look at it as of all the other options I could have, this is just an idea.
Okay.
How unique is this idea?
Yeah. It's not. Like I was thinking in the category, but overall, that would be a 2. It's not like super exciting, that's for sure.
Speed to market. How quickly can you create something to sell? Faster is better.
Okay, yeah, and like there, I would give it like a 6 because there's like you're not starting a distillery that you won't have your good first Scotch out for 15 years. And you got to try and tide the, like, oh, we're going to do gin for a while. It's so that speed to market can be really quite quick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the hardest part will be just getting open. After that, it's just, you're on repeat orders, right? Like every week it just kind of happens. Yeah. So,
yeah. And like even when you bought a bar on Church Street, you literally, like, you walked in, it was kind of there. It was kind of built. It was kind of like you could get it up and running really quite quickly. So compared to like where you're actually building a product or you're manufacturing or doing something like that, this speed to market is lightning fast actually for a business. Not a 9 or a 10, but I would say 6 or a 7. Like it's fast to get it up and running.
Yeah. One of the things we had to do was worry about timing, which we didn't want to have to close the place down during a transition. Right.
Yeah.
But all of the paperwork had to transfer over, which was my license was already approved. All my permits were approved. And when you change businesses of somebody that's already doing one, guess what the city does? They make you bring everything up to code that was grandfathered in. Right. So there's all this other stuff you got to do. So mine's more about timing, but the speed to get there is pretty fast.
It's pretty quick. Yeah.
All right. How about upfront investment? Right.
There are definitely absolutely less expensive businesses to get up and running. But then when you look at on the scale of businesses globally, this isn't like biotech, right? Like you're not looking like, well, it's $1 billion to enter the market. So I would give that at least an over half. I would give that at least a 6 because you're not putting in, there's some cash, but if you buy a place that's ready, like turnkey, it's not the same as like the manufacturing cost, buying equipment and all that kind of stuff. So
it's not as cheap as becoming a graphic designer on your own. Do it with the stuff that I have, but it's not, it's not the most expensive. It's not a battleship factory, right?
No, it's middling, I guess. So I don't know, 5, 6, 5. I don't know.
Okay. So the next two are kind of are pretty cool. One is upsell potential. Are there related products that you could offer? Is there room for expansion? Higher potential means, okay. I mean, you could add liquor. You could add liquor later. You could add, food.
Off sales.
Right.
Yeah. Even like packages, like you could literally sell event space. So there's quite a number of things you can do, not necessarily ultra high price, but there definitely is upsell opportunity. So I would put it again, middling 5.
5. Okay. All right. The last one, evergreen potential. Is this product one that will be needed over time or will it go irrelevant?
Okay. Well, I had a beer, was it last week? No, 2 weeks ago. What was it from 15 something, 77 or something like that? So I think there's a little longevity in beer,
Yeah,
so
I think it's still better.
I would say like a 7 or something. I don't know. Like I think it's, people have been going to bars for a long time.
Oh, you did that? Your score was 52. 52. Yeah. Now, what's interesting is that, remember, Josh Kaufman says, hey, if you get 50 or higher, then you should at least evaluate it more. You do a little deeper dive. What I like about this little exercise is that if you can't score a 50, then why waste time on it?
Yeah, exactly. And with this one, like even just talking through this, you start to see like, I wouldn't be real excited. I don't think this is some epic opportunity, but it actually, the reason I think it tips over the 50 mark is because it's like, you could see that you could, if you execute right, you may be able to pull this off and do all right with it. Right. But I don't think it's like this would not be an idea that I would go dive in, with both feet. Right.
I'm pretty sure like if I did this for a pitch pickup, it'd be like a 12.
They would drop you off in front of the on Church Street. Drop you off in Church Street.
Yeah. So, but I like it. I like it as a way that I'm always a fan of methodology of like going, you know what? Instead of just a guess or saying I just feel it in my gut, like going, well, I did this kind of exercise and this is what I think. And guidance I've read from other people is you get a score of 50 or higher. It's at least worth it. Now, what I would do as an individual saying, well, 50 is like the bottom of the barrel. That's like barely squeaking in.
Barely passing. Yeah.
So maybe as a personal goal, I'm like going, I want to find a business that's at least a 65 or higher before I make any more investment or any more time or any more effort.
Yeah. No, it would be interesting. And now we obviously aren't going to do it now, but it'd be interesting to take a totally different product and some of the existing products, like you said, Maserati, and run it through. And I'm curious if it would actually get up to that 60 or 65, because as you're talking about it, there's always trade-offs, right? So it's like, it's expensive, but then fewer people can own it. And it's like takes longer to get to market. So it's, they're never, it's hard to get a perfect score because there's always the trade-off.
Yeah, you can see why I like the checklist though, because it does ask a bunch of questions that you typically don't think about when you start a business. Yeah. I didn't think about those specific questions. Yeah.
These are worthwhile exercises. And I think you and I have both been through the ringer starting businesses. And, you know, my go-to is always go talk with the market, go talk with your potential customers and talk till you can't talk anymore and learn from them. But that only gives you so much. And something like this, it gets you to think outside of all of these other things. I thought it was really a pretty interesting list, actually.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this episode and you're like going, I've got a business idea. Hey, put it through this score and then comment on the video. Yep. I want to see what other people's scores are, right? Even your current business, you're like going, oh my God, now that I've run in this business, here's what I would have scored myself. Do that. Interact with us. Tell us what the scores are. I want to see if this is a good tool or not a good tool. That's why I wanted to bring it up, right? That's how this thing always works. And always go to mikeandblaine.com, buy the merch, buy a beer. What else we got to do?
Make sure you like, subscribe, follow. Don't miss any of our episodes. We're at this every single week.
There you go. 157 of these are in the book. They've been good. They've been bad. They've been awesome. I still think I've heard enough podcasts now. This has some of the best content on the interweb. Absolutely. Last week might have been the exception. That was probably entertaining. It was pretty sloppy last week. A little sloppy. If you didn't see 156, check it out and you're like, oh yeah, that was real sloppy. The birthday episode, but yeah, that was fun. Check out their website at mikeandblaine.com. Then subscribe to the podcast and buy these guys a beer.